Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Greene. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. So the latest outbreak of Ebola is psychological warfare at its finest. And part of me wanted to avoid the story entirely when it first hit because I could just feel the mainstream media, I could feel the federal government, I could feel the Obama administration just trying to raise fears among the American people and make this an issue. The mainstream media controls the narrative, folks. They can invent something out of thin air and make it a reality. Now, this isn't to say that the Ebola threat isn't real, that it's not a biological attack, that it hasn't been engineered by a rogue nation state, a group of terrorists, our federal government here at home to wipe out 90% of the human global population. We have no idea. Yet we have the CDC, the Centers of Disease Control, telling us that it can't be transferred and there's no transmission via airborne transmission, which we know is not entirely true. We know that Canadian scientists just a few years ago inoculated piglets that transferred the disease to monkeys, and they had no idea how it was possible because supposedly you can only transfer it when you're possessing symptoms and maybe you inoculate an object, a third-party object, what they call fomites, and then that transfers the disease. Bottom line being, they have no idea if this can or cannot be transferred via the air, via water droplets. And they just don't know. And even if they did know, even if they knew that this was a worst case scenario and that 90% of the global population was about to be wiped out, they wouldn't tell you. Of course, they're not going to shed light on the truth. They'd be quieting down the masses, trying to prevent panic and riots before the inevitability ensued. And they're not going to invite you to their underground bunkers. Now there's been 6 cases, up to 6 cases reported by Sanjay Gupta of CNN, potential cases of the Ebola virus in New York City, which again begs the question about the ineptitude of our federal government or maybe the intentional transmission here in the United States, bringing back infected patients to the U.S., to Atlanta and these special facilities to treat victims. I mean, why would they do this? If they're not sure if it can be transferred via airborne devices, it can be transferred through the air, then why would they put Americans at risk? And the bottom line is, folks, we're not getting the entire truth. Not only is this psychological warfare by the mainstream media, by the federal government, by the Obama administration, who, by the way, is just happening to be meeting with 50-odd powerful officials from Africa and the Western nations that just happen to be affected by the disease. This is all about creating fear among the American people. And it also shows just how grossly ill-prepared America is. If this is a legitimate threat, our hospitals aren't ready for it. The 6 patients in New York City today suspected with the disease at Mount Sinai aren't in a special ward. They're not being contained. This isn't level 5 containment or whatever they need to make sure the disease doesn't spread. I mean, this is like the movie Outbreak. This is like a Hollywood film. This has so much historical context. Not only is the Ebola virus, the Zaire form, up to 90% fatal, we have no idea what a mutated form might look like, what a bioterror form might look like, what an engineered, manufactured form might look like. I mean, our own government is the one that warns us about this tirelessly, about biological warfare, and that at any moment, all of us could be slaughtered by a deadly disease. That's what a lot of people aren't taking into account, that this potentially could be a new strain. Not only is there evidence that the Zaire strain could potentially be transferred, at least in theory, via droplets and via airborne transmission, but we have no idea what this strain is. Maybe they're bringing back then patients to intentionally infect millions of people here in America and abroad, or maybe they're isolating these particular patients to study the biohazard weapon that's been engineered by a rogue state. Maybe they're trying to figure it out right now. I mean, that's a possibility. The bottom line is we don't know. And Americans, and America in general, are grossly ill-prepared for an outbreak. Again, the elites, they'll be in their bunkers. They'll be safe. They'll be sheltered from the disease. It'll be the gross population that's slaughtered. You and I. Whether or not we look at history and we look at the Black Plague wiping out up to 25 million people and estimates of almost 60% of the European population, or it's the indigenous Native American populations that were wiped out by Western disease, up to 90%. I mean, it's absolutely incredible to think about. This trajectory of human population growth and all these people, especially concentrated in cities, only increases our chances and likelihood for these types of events. Whether or not they're organic and they're caused naturally as just a byproduct of too many people, or they're engineered by governments or terrorist organizations. And now this is spreading, folks, and you're not getting the entire truth. 6 patients potentially have the disease in New York City, and our hospitals are grossly ill-prepared. You're ill-prepared, I'm ill-prepared, America's ill-prepared, and that's the bottom line. This is the hard-hitting truth. I'm Christopher Greene. Get it out everywhere, make it viral, and click the link below to support our sponsor.